Good afternoon and welcome to BBC News. More than 1 million people have now signed a petition calling on the government to cancel a planned state visit to the UK by Donald Trump. This follows his temporary ban on visitors from 7 predominantly Muslim countries from entering the USA. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, said the visit should be postponed. But Downing Street said scrapping the visit would undo everything achieved in Mrs May's visit to Washington earlier this month and called the campaign a populist gesture. Here's our political correspondent, Ian Watson.
No fascist USA!
The demonstrations in America against President Trump's imposition of a temporary travel ban are likely to be repeated here, with protests planned outside Downing Street later today and in other UK cities. Although the Foreign Office have clarified that British citizens are exempt from the ban, the Foreign Secretary has been under pressure to say why it took so long to get clarification.
I'll be talking to you in the House of Commons.
OK.
That's the place. House of Commons. Be there.
This Conservative MP was born in Iraq, one of the 7 countries which are subject to President Trump's travel ban. He's pleased with confirmation now that as a British citizen he'll be able to visit the USA, but he's still opposed to the policy.
Clearly, the Foreign Secretary had worked throughout Sunday and into the night, talking directly to the White House, was my understanding, as did the team at Number 10, and I applaud them for the work they did, certainly on behalf of families like mine. I mean, the anguish we suffered over the last 72 hours has been horrific. There are millions of people in the UK and in the rest of Europe who are dual nationals or originally nationals of those countries who will be worried.
And now more than 1 million people have signed an online petition calling for President Trump's planned state visit to the UK to be called off. They say it could embarrass the Queen. That's the second highest number of signatories since the current policy on petitions was introduced. But it's worth noting that almost 500,000 people signed a petition backing a policy similar to Donald Trump's, calling for an immigration ban until ISIS is defeated. When a petition gets more than 100,000 signatures, MPs must consider it for debate. A decision on that will be taken tomorrow, but parliamentary sources are stressing it would be inconceivable if President Trump's planned visit wasn't discussed here at Westminster. Now, even if a majority of MPs decided they wanted that visit scrapped, they couldn't rescind an invitation from Buckingham Palace and Downing Street, but they could embarrass the Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, should President Trump's state visit go ahead?
She was tight-lipped today, but Downing Street have made it clear it would be a populist gesture to scrap President Trump's invitation, and they don't intend to do so. But the Labour leader wanted her to think again.
I think it's right that I should make the position very, very clear on the views that I have on the proposed state visit by President Trump, which is that it should be postponed, and that we should make that position very, very clear. And in view of the number of people that have come out over the last 2 days, I think a very substantial number of the British public absolutely agree with me on that.
But this former party leader defended Donald Trump.
And what has happened here is the countries upon which Trump has put a temporary travel ban while they work out how they're going to put extreme vetting in place. That list was drawn up by the Obama administration.
What was a diplomatic success now looks like a political difficulty. Getting close to the new US administration could be good for the post-Brexit economy, but not necessarily for Theresa May's domestic popularity. Ian Watson, BBC News.
Our assistant political editor, Norman Smith, is in Westminster for us this afternoon. Norman.
Thanks very much. Well, focus on the whole controversy is likely to descend here this afternoon because we're expecting a statement from the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, and then, crucially, we may get a whole debate on Donald Trump's travel ban, and there could even be a vote at the end of it. So there is the potential for the whole issue now to totally dominate what goes on in the Commons here this afternoon after Nadhim Zahawi and the former Labour leader Ed Miliband put down this motion. It'll depend on the Speaker whether he chooses to allow that emergency debate, but this morning Ed Miliband was urging him to agree to it.
Well, I believe that rolling out the red carpet for President Trump at this time would be wrong. Frankly, this ban that he has imposed will make the world a more dangerous, not a safer place. And the only thing he understands is strength. It needs a strong response from Britain, and the strong response is to say this cannot stand. And of course President Trump can come here, but not while this ban is in place. I'll be calling later this afternoon for an emergency debate in the House of Commons on President Trump's ban, because I think it's right that the House of Commons speaks with one voice, sends a clear message to the United States that this ban is wrong, counterproductive, divisive, and will make the world a more dangerous, not a safer place. And I think there's an opportunity for us to do that.
Now, perhaps a sign emerging that Number 10 are aware of the controversy blowing up over this proposed state visit, with more than 1 million people signing that petition, because this lunchtime Number 10 was suggesting that the decision to issue that invitation was taken by what's called the State Visits Committee in the Foreign Office. I have to say I've never heard of this committee, however others have, and apparently it usually arranges visits by leaders of smaller countries, but you imagine when it comes to a visit by the President of the United States, it seems to me inconceivable that the Prime Minister would not have been very, very directly involved. But it does perhaps suggest that Number 10 are just looking to deflect some of the heat from this issue elsewhere by suggesting actually this was a decision instigated by this committee.